look out, here's trouble. Time for Jim Does SuperCoach, the Week 5 wrap, and our Week 6 preview. That's right, I'm your host, James Clements. This is Jim Does SuperCoach. You can also check out, of course, NBA and NFL Straya. If you haven't, what are you doing? But, as we all expected from Week 5 of NFL SuperCoach, Rico Dowdle is the best player in football apparently this week. Amazing gear. But really the story of the week this week is we're sort of all scrambling to figure out the top trade targets, some of the best cash cows, and we are going to break it all down for you. So how'd we go this week for week 5? I did all right, 574, and I'll tell you what, that's better than all right. We finished in the top 1%, which is pretty cool. So overall, I'm 566th, which is pretty good after a really disappointing week 4. Really good bounce back. Really happy with that. The trades I made worked out. I'll get to that in a second. The week 4 average score across the competition was at 437, which was much better than the prior week's 370. So a lot of players really stepped up for their super coaches this week, which is nice. Very much appreciado, if you ask me. The top 5% average score was 562, so I did a little bit better than that. As I mentioned, though, my trades that I mentioned on last week's show that I also talked about in the team reveal video, if you're not watching those, get around all the socials. You see them pop up on Fridays, maybe even Thursdays. Yeah. But ended up going with the Dallas stack, right? So we boosted last week. We had the Dallas stack of Dak Prescott and George Pickens. Worked out pretty well. The other option I had and was, basically tossing around was Josh Allen and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So that was a 55 for Dak and a 25 for Pickens versus a 40 for Josh Allen and only 28 for Amon-Ra. So just saying, that's a pretty good pickup of, 68 versus, I want to say 80. So happy days. I'm not a math magician, just saying. But we'll take that. And Atlanta, with their defense on a bye, I booted them to the curb. Detroit was the right call. They scored 20 up against, Cincy? Would have been more if they hadn't have given up those stupid late touchdowns to Jamar Chase, but here we are. I did have the Pats on the bench. They scored 16, but I'll take that extra 4 points. Thank you, Detroit, because I can hold on to them for a couple of weeks. Now, before we get into the Week 5 wrap-up, remember, heading into Week 6, Houston and Minnesota are our teams on a bye this week, so not bad. Right, how did everybody go this week in terms of the actual scores? So who are the best performers at each position? Your top QBs this week in SuperCoach. Of course, Sam Darnold and CJ Stroud, both with 57 points. Mahomes and Dak Prescott at 55. Not bad, considering Mahomes is another option that I mooted last week. And 53, both for Baker Mayfield and Trevor Lawrence. And, of course, then Matt Stafford and Justin Fields rounding out that sort of, that's 8 QBs over 50. Not bad. They had 51. So, look, of course, Tua came in at 9 at 45, Mac Jones at 44. Again, as we all expected. But without Lamar out there, with Josh Allen being stymied by that Pats defense, not a really, really massive week for some of the big-name QBs, obviously. Running back, we had Rico Dowdle, as I mentioned, the backup running back there in Carolina, ripping off over 200 yards and going absolutely ham. Enjoyed that for him. Of course, he's owned by 0.4% of coaches out there. 115 folks. Not bad. Jonathan Taylor kept up his amazing run. He had 60. That's 3 straight weeks where he's been absolutely crushing it. Kyron Williams had 54. Javonte Williams, not brothers, had 52. Bill Croskey-Merrit, Corey Croskey-Merrit finally pops up with 51 to round out the top 5. The rest of that top 10, Christian McCaffrey, 47. Love that for him in a crazy game against the Rams. Rashad White, 42. Dave Montgomery, 35, along with Kareem Hunt, who outscored Saquon Barkley, which just makes sense, of course. The wide receiver, best performers, Emeka Egbuka, he was incredible. 55 for the Rook. Love that. 52 for Jamar Chase. That all came late. It was all garbage time. Now, look, since you have traded for Joe Flacco, this might help Jamar Chase. We'll talk about that again later. JSN, my beloved Jackson Smith and Jigba, he had 46, crushed it. Jalen Waddle filling in for Tyreek Hill had 40. The Puka Nacua at 5, tied with Deebo Samuel with 39, and Stephon Diggs. So that's sort of the top 5. Running at the top 10, Rashid Shaheed, 38, Kendrick Bourne, 38, and Garrett Wilson, 32. Interesting one there at 11, Justin Jefferson. He's on a bye this week, but he was really, really solid over there in London. The tight ends, of course, AJ Barner tops everybody. Who? That's right, he was owned by 0.5% of teams. Sure. I think it was even fewer before he went off this week. He had 41, which was crazy. Couple of touchdowns in there. Jake Ferguson with 40, Theo Johnson 36, Sam Laporta at 35, and Darren Waller 32, Kelsey and Njoku with 31, Kincaid and Tonga with 27, and Mason Taylor to round out the top 10, 26. Tight end is getting wild and worrisome, right? Because the biggest owned names out there, our man Tyler Warren, still crushing it at 24. Happy days there. Brock Bowers, still owned by 44% of coaches, did not play. Trey McBride, he's owned by 17% of coaches, and on the field, he had 13. Brutal. Colston Loveland, not even playing at the moment, owned by 20% of coaches. What are you doing? Anyway, the kickers this week. We had a pretty interesting, weird one, right? In terms of like the actual really gun kickers, Kaimi Fairbairn was fantastic. He had 36, but again, Houston are on a bye this week. Eddie Pinheiro at 34, 32 for Blake Grupe. Joey Sly at 26. Andy Borregales at 26 as well for my beloved Patriots. And outside of that, Chase McLaughlin, 24. Ryan Fitzgerald, 20. Matt Gay, 18. Cam Dicker, the kicker, 18. And Cam Little, 18. Sure. There you go. That is those kickers. How about the defense and special teams? As expected, the New Orleans Saints, what? Had 36. The Colts had 30 up against that horrible Raiders team. Washington had 26 up against the Chargers because they just kept getting to my beloved Juzzy Herbs. The Texans had 22. We knew that was a pretty good matchup for them against Baltimore. And the Detroit Lions came in top 5 with 20 up against Cincy. Glad I brought them in. Pats were just there as well, 16 in 7th. So that's the top performers. What were the big surprises, Jim? Well, Rico Dowdle ripping off 61, obviously, and topping the running backs, and AJ Barner obviously topping the tight ends. That's crazy, mate. What are we doing? Stephon Diggs, though, 39 points against Buffalo. First Pats wide receiver to go back-to-back 100 yards, 100-yard receiving games since, I believe, Julian Edelman in 2019. Crazy. Not bad. But Darren Waller going off is a big one too, right? Like back-to-back 32-point weeks. Massive price rise incoming here. He was retired. I'm pretty sure he was a DJ, maybe a male model. What? Now he's crushing it. Darnold and CJ Stroud both having 57. Stafford having 51. He's in for a big week again this week too, I reckon. Bill Croskey-Merrit having his breakout. Not a giant surprise, but that was good. Jake Ferguson continuing his run as probably one of the most reliable tight ends so far. He had 40 on your Ferg. Jalen Waddle having the 40 in place of Tyreek Hill. Not a giant surprise, but the fact that Tua hit him with that big touchdown late was really, really big. Debo's 39. This was a bit of a surprise because Debo's been sort of a bit up and down. But, I mean, the Commanders going up against a solid Chargers defense. Jaden Daniels comes back. They've got no scary Terry McLaurin. And Debo crushed it. Not bad. And, of course, Kareem Hunt outscoring Saquon Barkley. Bit of a surprise there. Who were the biggest flops, however? The biggest flops this week. Derrick Henry had 18 points. Brutal. Zay Flowers, 19 points. Basically, anyone to do with Baltimore I want no bar of until Lamar comes back and looks good again. Mark Andrews had 6 points. It's just a mess. Outside of this, Zach Ertz, cop that did not play despite actually playing in the game. He had a 0. Not great. James Cook up against the Patriots defense only had 9 points. That was a huge flop. And I guess like even to a degree, like Josh Allen only had the 40. And I sort of talked about this at the top of the show, right? He was going to be the option to trade in this week. I liked the matchup against the Patriots. But the Pats were really, really solid in that Sunday Night Football game. And the Bills had their most amount of turnovers in a game this season. So not ideal. But the flip side of that, Trevion Henderson only had 6 points for the Patriots too because they gave all of the running back touchdowns, all the play calls to Ramondre Stevenson. Sure, but Antonio Gibson is now out with an ACL, so maybe we see more Trevion. RJ Harvey, another rookie, only 8 points. Juwan Johnson was a big flop for me this week. 5 points. Taysom Hill is back. You know the Saints are just going to get janky now that he's back. It's a tough one. AJ Brown managed 13. Would have had a lot more had he have actually, been on the same page as Jalen Hurts on that giant long bomb. Jerry Jeudy, that's a big flop. 5 points for him. Jameson Williams. J-Mo, what are you doing, mate? 2 points. Brutal. Quentin Johnson, 9 points. Come on, Quentin. It's almost like the amount of times you turned around and Juzzy Herbs had already thrown the ball because he was being attacked. That's assault, says Schefter. because they've got no O-line basically there in the Chargers. Quentin Johnson, the timing was all over the shop. Chris Godwin came back for the Bucks again. Only another 8 points, just a bit all over the shop. Drake May, despite the awesome win for the Pats, he only had 23 SuperCoach points because he didn't throw a touchdown. He controlled that game, played really well, but didn't throw a touchdown. Outside of this, the Seattle defense special teams managed -6. Baltimore managed -8. No one needs that Baltimore one. The Rams only managed 2 points this week, but they've got a really good one against Baltimore this week. And I mentioned the Raiders, right? Bowers sits out. Trey Tucker is 17. Jacoby Myers is nowhere to be seen. Like, it's just brutal. At least Genty was really solid again for us. So there you go. So the biggest worries coming out of week 5 for our SuperCoach teams. Biggest worries, oh no, is Omarion Hampton. This sucks. So last week we lose Lamar Jackson, Malik Neighbors, Tyreek Hill. Omarion Hampton is owned by 47.5% of SuperCoaches, and out he goes. So we've all got to make some pretty big decisions there. And to be honest, the Chargers in general are a big worry. Like Ladd McConkey was meant to be a target monster this year, but because that O-line is so leaky, Juzzy Herbs has got absolutely zero time left to throw the ball to him, QJ, and Keenan Allen. So I'm just really worried about the Chargers in general, especially let alone trying to figure out who their new running back is going to be. Like we've already seen some names thrown out there, but this Chargers running back room, having already lost Najee Harris, they've gotten down to this simple idea. It's like, well, it's Kamani Vidal and Hassan Haskins, and they're adding like Nyheim Hines. Sure. Yeesh. I'm worried about that. All of Baltimore, sans Lamar Jackson as well, right? Like if Lamar comes back and he feels okay this week, remember Baltimore have a bye in 2 weeks' time. So you feel like the Ravens will rest him at least one more week. Don't know. Cincinnati. Joe Flacco is expected to start for the Bengals this week. I love that he's just doing a tour of the AFC North as well. It's crazy. But Jamar Chase, we saw this week, just connect with him on a couple of lung bombs and boom, your SuperCoach score can go through the roof. I am keeping a very close eye on Jamar Chase for the rest of this season. His price, remember, was essentially looking very, very close to bottoming out. And he lost another 1.7 million of his price this week. But his break-even now is down to only 38. Not bad, right? Not bad. The problem is that Cincinnati team now goes up against Green Bay. So I'm going to give it another week or two. They have Green Bay, then they have Pittsburgh. What I'm targeting with Jamar Chase is week 8 up against the Jets. His price could be all the way down around 17 mil. Could be a lot lower depending on if he actually gets even close to his break even against Green Bay and Pittsburgh the next couple of weeks. Either way, keep an eye on Jamar Chase. His value gets a lot more palatable with Joe Flacco throwing him moonballs. The thing is, Flacco also kind of stunk in Cleveland, right? So you're going to have people bending over backwards and be like, Flacco, moonballs. I'd feel a lot better if it was Jameis Winston just going out there and slinging it to Higgins, to Chase Brown. But we'll give this a little bit of a look-see for the next couple of weeks before maybe we jump back on Chase. The other worries are obviously the Raiders. Geno Smith keeps throwing a lot of interceptions. Brock Bowers is out with a PCL strain. Basically, he had been sort of playing through it seems. Genty at least is the shining light where he's been pretty fine. Just the touchdown aspect of Genty is always there. As soon as he gets through that first line of defenders, he is gone. So I still love me some Genty. But the rest of their pass catchers, the rest of that team is just abysmal. And this week, we always sort of talk about who's playing Cleveland or Minnesota in those defenses. This week, it's Pittsburgh. And Minnesota's obviously on a bye. So, I don't know. Pretty interesting week, really. Some worries out there. Baltimore is just probably the blaring one too, right? Between Andrews, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers. If you're invested in Baltimore, I'd be jumping ship. So, with all that said, that's week 5. What are the cash cows we're now looking forward to in week 6? There are a few floating around. Jackson Dart with the QBs. That's where we're going to start. He's played his 2 games now. He's got a break even of -50, so he's on the bubble. He's priced 4.3 mil. Love this. He could easily rise $3.5 million next week. I'll talk about this in the trades, but he's a very obvious swap candidate from Cam Ward. Just saying. Dylan Gabriel's the other one for the QBs. He's got a break even of -21. He's only priced at 3.7 mil. And he could rise, if he's decent this week, as Cleveland, get out there, have a bit of a run around, cause a bit of... He is very small, though. They come home all the way from the UK, and they play Pittsburgh. I don't really like his matchup. I probably prefer Jackson Dart, and even he's going up against the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. So it's a bit of a weird one. I'd rather take the big break even. Justin Fields... He's got a big break even of -10. He's already at 17.3 mil. He's a top 10 QB at the moment. He's doing pretty well. He could go up at least 2.5 mil, 2 next week. And Stafford, same sort of vibe, right? Break even of 4. Plays that Ravens defense this week that you can very clearly and most definitely throw on. Stafford could go bang. He's already at 19.9 mil with his break even of 4. Could rise another 2 million. And as I promised last week, Dak Prescott. Awesome schedule run, right? He went up 1.7 million already this week. At 21.6 million, he's got a break even of 2. Another price rise of 1.7 mil on the cards. Dallas have an interesting matchup this week against Carolina. Yes, it's on the road. I don't really care. I think Dak's going to go absolutely ham again. The running backs, Hampton has obviously got a break even of -1, priced at 12.3 mil. He's going to be out at least 4 weeks, though. He's on IR. You can move on from Omarion Hampton. And if it gets really janky in a couple of weeks' time, he's priced at 12.3 mil. There are enough sort of cheaper running backs out there that I'm probably not going to get too bent out of shape. You can even bring him back in 5 weeks' time if you want. But there's enough top name running backs out there. Remember, we're only playing 4 on the field. That Hampton probably isn't going to crack my end of year top 5. So if you're going to jump off him now to get one of those top 4 in, I'd be doing that. Or at least in the next couple of weeks, because he's not going to hurt you on the bench. I'll talk about that later as well. The big one, though, is Ashton Genty, right? Last week, his break-even of -31. Now it's -29. He's priced at 11.2 mil. $2.7 million price rise on the horizon this week with a great matchup against Tennessee. Just saying, love this one for him. At home against the Titans. Quinshon Judkins was the big one, too. He had a huge... He could have even had a massive week. He's priced at 10 mil. Break-even of -9. He had a 50-yard touchdown call back, which is a heartbreaker. 1.7 mil price rise on the horizon this week. And Bill Croskey-Merrit, 8.1 mil, break even of -19. He looked absolutely unreal. He's got a great matchup against Chicago. RJ Harvey, break even of -9, looking pretty good. Still priced at 6.1 mil. His ceiling, I mean, he had a pretty big one last week of 35, but otherwise, Denver, I don't know about that one. He's still got Dobbins there. They play the Jets this week, though, so RJ Harvey, maybe. Scatterboo, break even of 15. Went up 1.8 mil. Plays the Eagles this week, though. Don't really like that matchup. Woody Marks is out for his bye. Had a break even of -14. Went up 1.4 mil to 7.4. Bit of a disappointment. Trevion Henderson plays New Orleans this week. Has got a break even of 5. So if you've still got him, I'd probably be holding. And Kenny Gainwell. The Steelers come back from their bye. He's got a break even of -34. He's already priced at 7.6 mil. Jalen Warren, we'll find out more later this week whether or not he's good to go. But Kenny Gainwell, will he have a role in this offense? Probably. Like Pittsburgh, it's Aaron Rodgers, Old Man River, doing some ayahuasca. It's a lot of like Kenny Gainwell, Jalen Warren, run the ball, Arthur Smith, offensive coordinator. That's what they're going to be doing. So Kenny Gainwell, look, if you're hard up against it, want a real point of difference, maybe he goes bang again. For the wide receivers, a bit thin on the ground in terms of your actual cash cows. Emeka Egbuka's still got a break even of -22. If you don't have him in your team, what are you doing? Tutu Atwell, break even of 1. I think at the moment, -1. He's priced at 6.6 mil. But again, we talked about this last week. He has a couple of catches every so often, but he's still the third string, like third biggest target in that offense for the Rams. Ryan Flournoy for Dallas, -10. Sure, 4.8 mil. Someone's going to actually get some catches next to Ferguson and Pickens until CD Lamb comes back, but I'm probably not going to kick the tires on him. Kendrick Bourne, though, is pretty interesting. 38 points this week because that's right. The Niners have got no one else. Priced at 6.3 mil. Got a break even to -8. He could make a bucket load of cash. And Pickens, if you didn't get on with me last week, he's still got a break even to 6, priced at 16.2 mil. The target's going to keep like just through the roof. He's unreal. He could rise more and more. What is it? 16.2 mil at the moment. He could easily get up to that 18.9 pretty easy. Other ones I'm keeping an eye on, Matthew Golden. That's right. The Packers coming off their bye. They play Cincy. So he, Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks, all pretty good options this week, I think. Luke McCaffrey, Rome Odunze, some good ones there too. Odunze as well, he's got the break-even at 20. Plays Washington this week off the bye. That is a crazy game. I expect Odunze to do pretty well. For the tight ends, Darren Waller is the obvious one. Scored 32. Break-even of minus 44. Not bad. Priced at 3.7 mil. He's your obvious target this week. You can jump off Bowers and get onto Waller and free up some cash if that's what you feel like. They play the Chargers this week. Not a great matchup, but Waller, look, every time they get in the red zone, Tua's just like, yes. Yes, mate. AJ Barner, look, minus 20 after he's 41 this week, but he's at 7.6 mil. There are other better options out there. Jake Ferguson, crushing it. 40 this week. He went from 9.6 mil to 11.7. If you want to go straight from Bowers to Ferg, I'm not going to stop you. In fact, thumbs up from me. He's got a break even of minus 3. He'll continue being good. Tyler Warren, still got a break even of minus 8. Tight end 2, probably for the season. Just saying. Tonges went up 1.6. Theo Johnson can go at 1.5, but look, there's better options. We're only playing 2 tight ends on the field. If you don't have Tyler Warren, you need him. Outside of that, Bowers, Ferguson, McBride, a couple of really good options still there. The kickers for cash cows, Cairo Santos, he's got a break even of minus 6 off his buy, 8.3 mil. You probably don't need him. Andy Borregales, however, is only priced at 5.3 mil, and he's got a break even of minus 6. And on the bubble is Judd McAtamey, the Giants kicker, right? Plays the Eagles. Don't like the Giants' chances really to hang with the Eagles in this game. 3.8 mil, break even of 3. Just don't know about that. But look, if you're really hard up against it for kickers, maybe. He's a good bench option. For the defense special teams, not a giant amount of cheap ones this week. And a lot of the top end defense special teams actually have really good matchups, like Green Bay playing Cincy, but they have a massive break even. Denver, same sort of vibe, right? So I think Green Bay's break even is like 35. I'd rather have the Denver Broncos up against the Jets. Their break even is only 20. Well, it's 22, which is pretty high. But the Jets have been that bad that Denver might smash that. Even the Eagles versus the Giants, that's a break even of 25 too. So Detroit, they went to Cincy. They now have a break even of -1 against Kansas City this week. It's an interesting one. New England going to New Orleans, break even of -5. Pretty nicely priced. Just saying, a good one for your actual bench. Outside of that, I'll rank those in a second once we get to the must trades. So for the must trades, what trades are we looking at this week? Well, the must trades, Omarion Hampton, depending on how much you're relying on him, I'm not entirely sure if he's a massive, massive must trade because a lot of us are in a position where Genty is on the team. Hampton might be on your field or off, whatever. Brock Bowers is the same sort of vibe, right? If you've got Tyler Warren, you can just slot him on field. You might not have to trade these guys at the moment. Hampton is owned by 47.5% of all coaches, and Brock Bowers is 44.5%. So a lot of us are in the same boat. They might not be must trades. They could be absolutely stepping stone trades, though, if you want to really go hammer and tongs. So I'm in a position this week where Hampton is on my bench already. He has a break even of -1. He's going to miss 4 weeks. I think we can get off Hampton because there are other options out there in the SuperCoach world. 12.3 mil. He does have the break even of -1, but we've got other ways to make enough money. You can use him as a stepping stone to one of the top 4 running backs, I think. You've still got a rookie in Trevion Henderson or Scatterbo or Judkins or somebody else out there that you can use as a bit of a cash cow in your RB6 spot. But for me, I'm actually pretty happy with Genty with that matchup this week just to ride it and see how he goes. Because this week, I might actually be in the position where I can just save 2 trades with an eye to the future because I actually don't mind some of the matchups we've got this week, right? Like Ted McMillan, even Carolina, they play Dallas this week. They're at home. That Dallas secondary, whoa boy. That Dallas defense in general, whoa boy. McMillan could go off. I'm kind of happy with him in my WR6 spot, wide receiver 6 spot. Hunter as well, finally popped off this week a little bit. He only scored the 15 points, but I've got a Dunze coming in for Nico Collins. So I've got cover on my bench to take over from those starters like Bowers. Tyler Warren went straight on this week for me. Nico's on a bye this week for me, so I've got a Dunze coming in. Hampton, I can just leave him there as a 0. We'll see what happens after that. But if I were to trade, I'd probably move Hampton to Javonte Williams or Bijan, right? Like to Javonte Williams, who's going off and actually still going to make a lot of money. That's only a 2.5 million jump. Bijan is a little bit more, but if you've got a bit of cash in the bank, or if you're going to go from Bowers down to Darren Waller, there's your jump up cash right there, right? So I've got 18 trades left. I don't know how many folks have got out there. 18. I wouldn't mind saving 2 this week and try to just roll with all the coverage I've already got, because the options out there between Genti's matchup with Tennessee, Bijan is going up against Buffalo. Yes, Javonte Williams could absolutely carve up Carolina. So you could sort of look at this and go, well, would I rather go for the big points play, go from Hampton to Javonte, go from there, chuck him on field, just see how Genti does against Tennessee, leave him on my bench. That's the cost of doing business in the Supercoach world. I don't know. So Javonte's got money to make, could have a huge week up against Carolina. Bijan, you probably would just set and forget him for the rest of the season. Atlanta are that good if you brought him in. Waller, if you bring him in for Brock Bowers, he could be a cash cow for a couple of weeks till George Greg Kettle comes back. Then you can jump up to there. Or if you've got cash, you want to go hammer and tongs at the points as well, you can go from Bowers to Jake Ferguson as a straight swap almost. So I'd feel pretty good about that. Other trades out there as well. Cam Ward, I'd probably jump off him to Jackson Dart. Dylan Gabriel, I just don't feel that good about his, prospects long term. Whereas Dart at least is going to make you a bit of cash. If you've got JJ McCarthy, though, I'd still hold on to him through this Minnesota bye. We'll see how that ankle is doing if they bring him back. He's still got to break even to minus 35. He's hurting nobody on your bench. And once he comes back, look, he'll make a bit of cash. You can move on from him then, I reckon. But like even downgrading Omarion Hampton to Bill Croskey-Merrit versus Chicago's NFL worst run defense is probably not a bad idea too. It's just more about, for me at this point, if I want to be burning trades, where we're heading into week 6, most places will be going, well, most leagues will be going through week 14, week 15, hitting the finals and stuff. This might be the one spot where I can actually save a couple of trades, or I can sort of look ahead, try to figure out some of the buys where I'm going to have some pretty big holes, and I'll get to that in a second. And I can sort of plan out, if I plug those holes now, are we going to be okay once these buys keep rolling in? I don't know, but I'll get to that in a second. The possible trade-ins, trade-outs, running backs. Quinshon Judkins looks awesome. I'd bring him in if that's your vibe. Bill Croskey-Merrit as well versus Chicago. I feel good about that as downgrade targets for Hampton. Wide receivers, if you don't have Egbuka and Odunze already, what are you doing? I'd probably wait. Obviously, we've got a bye this week for Minnesota, but Justin Jefferson looks back. Keep an eye on Chase, as I mentioned. Tight ends, Darren Waller or Jake Ferguson are the big targets. Defense, special teams. Denver this week against the Jets. Love that. It is in the UK, though, and weird stuff always happens in the overseas games. Pittsburgh play Cleveland. You've got Dylan Gabriel. They're coming back from the UK. That's a bad matchup for Cleveland. If you've got the Steelers defense, that's a bit of a thumbs up, I reckon. Philly versus the Giants as well. Rookie QB up against that Eagles defense. Be pretty interesting. Rams versus Baltimore is a big one too. And Green Bay versus Cincy. But they all have pretty big break-evens, so bit of a weird one. For me, Danny Dimes is the other only sort of concern I've got for the minute. But, the big option I was sort of kicking around is maybe going to Josh Allen versus Atlanta. But, that's on the road. Indy play Arizona at home. This could be a bit of a wash. And again, Danny Dimes is playing really, really well. The Cardinals are a mess after last week's loss to the Titans. Indy could really sink the boot in. So I might just stick with Danny Dimes for the minute. I think he's got another big one in him. Even giving one of my wide receivers a bump from like Travis Hunter to Amon Ra as a bit of a cash grab, or not a cash grab, but a points grab. Not a bad one, but he's got to break even to 42 against the Chiefs. Hunter's got to break even to 1 against Seattle. I can probably just keep my powder dry there and roll with Hunter on the bench and hope that Ted McMillan really carves up Dallas and they get into a bit of a shootout. So I think for the minute, option one is no trades. No trades this week. I'm okay for bye coverage this week with Genty starting on field versus Tennessee next to Jonathan Taylor, Gibbs, and McCaffrey. Javonte Williams is pretty tempting to go from Hampton to him perhaps for this week. But at the same time, I'm okay with Genty, I think. Odunze comes on the field for me for Nico, and McMillan hopefully goes off against Dallas as well. Or option two is go all out this week. Maybe Hunter and Hampton out for Bijan and Amon-Ra, or perhaps Javonte, Amon-Ra, or perhaps we go Bowers down to Waller, right? So option three is almost that, right? In for Dimes and Bowers comes Josh Allen and Darren Waller. The thing is with this one, Josh Allen's got a week 7 bye, so I'm bringing him essentially for this 1 week. I think I'm going to target him for week 8. That's how I'm going to roll the dice and ride with Dunny Dimes for 2 more weeks, then maybe use him as a jumping stepstone to our man Josh Allen. Bijan has Buffalo this week at home. Maybe he doesn't go massive and I can use Hampton to get to Bijan next week. Don't know. Maybe Javonte Williams is the better idea. Amon-Ra is the same buy though as well for JSN and Puka Nacua, who are both on my team. So I'm going to just pump the brakes on Amon-Ra for a week or 2. I'll probably target him for week 9, right? So this is where your strategy comes in. This is where you got to be looking forward to your buys. You got to look to who you've already got on your team and not burn through all your trades, because by the time you get to week 13, 14, you're scrambling. You're going to need those trades in your pocket, right? For the tight end position, look, Bowers and McBride both have the week 8 bye. So if you want to jump off Bowers now and bring in Waller, get that big cash rise from Waller next week, I'm okay with that. That's probably not a bad idea. For the minute, my instinct is just to hold steady. One of my all-time favorite bands. Keep an eye on the Bowers situation as well. Put our faith in the rookies, in Genty and Ted McMillan, and ride with Dimes a couple more weeks. Otherwise, I'd probably be looking maybe Hampton to Javonte Williams. Genty can go onto my bench. And outside of that, however much cash I've got left over, I'll probably even go Bowers to Waller as the sort of double. He frees you up a bit more cash to go from Hampton to Javonte, and Waller probably a better option than Bauer at this point, because Bowers has got this huge break even of 36. The way he's looked, just unless we get some really good updates this week, probably out of the Brock Bowers business for the next week or 2, because he could probably pretty easily shed another $1-2 million in the next couple of weeks if he's just a little bit under par. So there we go. So I think for the minute, I'm standing pat. A couple of really good options out there. The Javonte one is sort of staring me in the face for Omarion Hampton. Bowers down to Waller as well. Very tempting, but that'd take me down to 16 trades after week 6. How are we feeling about that? So let us know. Sound off in the comments. Give us a shout. And that's it for the week 5 wrap. The week 6 look ahead of Jim Does SuperCoach. Make sure you're following us across all of the socials as well. Twitter, IG, TikTok, YouTube, Facey, all that good stuff. Get around my other shows, NFL Straya, NBA Straya, breaking everything down. But that's it. Let us know what you reckon. What trades are you going to make? Sound off. Send them through. We'll judge them. We'll give you whatever advice we've got. Should be an awesome week, though. Week 5 was absolutely chaos. Some big scores. Hopefully you did well. That has been Jim Does SuperCoach. Happy SuperCoaching.